Hello and welcome. This is Impactpreneur by Connecting Dreams Foundation SRCC chapter, which delves right into the depths of social entrepreneurship and the various aspects involved in it.
Hello and welcome. Today on this podcast, we'll be talking about human resource management, something that is closely related to the best and the most important asset of the organization, the employees. And to guide us in this field, we are proud to have with us Mr. Vikas Dua, a TEDx speaker and author, former AVP, Talent Acquisition at the Wipro DOP, former VP, HR and Head of Recruitment at StarTech, and presently serving as a Chief HR Mentor at the Attain. We welcome you to today's podcast, sir.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And Nirud, it's a pleasure being here for the students.
It's a pleasure for us as well. So, without further ado, I would like to start off with the first question, sir.
Sure.
So, what we have been studying about HR in the textbooks is that it is about obtaining and maintaining a satisfied and a satisfactory workforce. So, with your experience of the corporate world, could you please give the audience some insights into the world of HRs and how different is it from what we've been taught in schools and in the textbooks?
Sure, Nirud. Great. So, I'm sure as a student, you're aware of, the classic definition of HRM or human resource management. It's really, if you look at it, the strategic approach about how a company effectively manages its employees, motivates them to deliver to the best of their abilities. And in turn, it's expected that the organization will gain some sort of competitive advantage.
Definitely.
This is pretty much what the corporate world also believes. What we additionally learn in the corporate world really is that HR has a business angle to it as well. So it's about numbers as well as it is about people. And what we really see is that when you look at the hard numbers, they're really the numbers that show up on documents like the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement.
Definitely.
Also, I hold a perspective that in the space of HRM, the way it is taught in our academic institutes, some elements such as recruitment and compensation and benefits do not get discussed in the required level of detail that they should be. So,
Exactly.
my complete perspective on this question of yours is that the corporate world really builds on the classic concept of human resource management as we learn in our institutes, and then takes it to a level where it is more holistic and more implementable.
So, sir, you've been in this domain for around 2 decades now. So, how do you think has HR evolved over the past few years, and how has the pandemic affected the working and the coordination among the employees?
Sure, Anirudh. There's been a transformational change in the HR landscape over the last few years. I've been part of the change and I've experienced it firsthand, so I can talk about it. In fact, the recent pandemic has actually completely accelerated that pace of change. So there was a time a few years ago where HR used to demand their seat on the table. Thanks to the pandemic, now they are firmly on the table. And in fact, leaders have actually given them the drawing board or the whiteboard and the markers to be able to chart out the future direction for the organization. As you must be aware, about 70% of our employees, at least in the urban centers, are still not in the physical office space. So what's happening is that HR leaders are now looking at integrating them back into the workplace to some extent, and also to ensure that at least meanwhile they're all connected in the online connected space to 100% level, so that the organization can continue to move forward.
Definitely.
Additionally, one important change that we have seen as far as the pandemic which you referenced, the impact of that, is that the DNI efforts or the diversity and inclusion efforts of organizations have got a further impetus, because now with the general openness to working from home and ability of people who may not be able to come across physically to office spaces, our potential to hire them, to deploy them in our organizations has shot up tremendously. So those are some of the big ticket changes I would talk about.
Yes, definitely, sir. That is very true, in fact. And at the end, what we believe is the bond and the communication among the employees. That is exactly what matters. But sir, like with the changing times, it is now quite evident that the people are inclining towards social media instead of being social in reality. So how would this change the dynamics of human resource management?
Great question, Anirudh. Yes, we've really seen a social explosion in the last few years, and the amount of data that is generated on a daily basis, whether it's through your community connection platforms on our mobile phones or social media platforms, is just humongous. It has presented a whole new challenge to HR personnel, but I also see it as an opportunity. And let me explain why. There was a time where HR was operating as the personnel department, where everything was about people and productivity.
Yeah.
And the focus of HR leaders was to, treat everyone equally, treat everyone with the same brush, and make them perform to their 100% potential. What ended up happening was that if you look at very critical component of HR like employee engagement, you ended up seeing HR leaders treating everyone the same, and that engagement was pretty much limited to events like Fun Friday or the quarterly RNR, which ended up being take the team out for a dinner, take them out for a party, take them out for a movie at best. So social media now has transformed this entire engagement platform. So we have
Definitely.
HR, which is now connecting to employees almost 24/7. They are able to personalize connects to each employee by deploying tools such as chatbots and other engagement softwares. And what really is happening is that each one is getting that due personal attention or touch that they need. So that's where social media has come in handy, and it's also helping HR leaders integrate not only the employees within their organization, but also those in the extended ecosystem, which is employees of their vendors, the support staff, and very importantly, even customers, because that's ultimately the relationship that takes any organization forward.
Exactly. Yes, sir. So, like as you said, the world has now become like completely become a global village with every organization having an extended support of the employees and the staff and the customer that it deals with. So now talking about the colleges and the universities, we have a lot of societies and student-run organizations where we also conduct a proper recruitment drive. So that makes me curious to ask that how is it different from what you do in the real world, and how do you think that can be helpful for the students who are looking forward to work as an HR?
Sure. One of my most cherished topics, having spent so many years in recruitment. So, Anirudh, my firm core belief is that recruitment is a very straightforward, standardized transaction, actually. You think about it. It's not very different from actually even the admissions process that an institute like yours would run every year to bring in the new batch of students. So, there is a candidate at one end and a job at the other end. What one is really trying to do is match the candidate to the job. There are a series of steps in the middle, which we call the assessment step. So when you look at a typical recruitment process in any organization, it's essentially three large steps. The first is how that organization attracts and sources candidates. The second is how it evaluates those candidates through a series of assessments or interviews. And third is how they finally select that one candidate and then onboard him or her into the organization and bring him make her or him part of the family. The challenge that lies, Anirudh, is really where, in more cases than not, companies tend to complicate these transactions. So they add layers or they add processes which possibly are not always value additive. For example, very basic example that I can share with you is, and I'm sure some of you may have experienced it during your internship process or other interviews, is that you would have multiple levels or multiple interviewers one after the other. My question
Right.
at such times is that if you're adding successive layers of interviewers, why is that, or what is the need for having that? Are we saying that the previous interviewer or interviewers were not capable enough of taking that interview or that
Exactly.
selection decision? Yeah. And if not, then why were they there in the first place? There are optimum ways to execute the same step. You can bring in a panel. You can do, two or three interviewers interview the candidate at the same time. You have some selection or assessment tests which kind of filter out some of the candidates in the selection process itself. So there is an element of efficiency and speed that can definitely be brought in. And to that extent, even the interviews that or the selection processes that you run for the bodies that you talk about will not be very different if you really bring it down to the brass tacks and understand what are you solving for, who is the kind of or what is the kind of individual that you want in that role, what is the job that individual is supposed to do, and then structure your interview process accordingly.
So like, yeah, very rightly said. Even like structure to any organization or any process is like necessary for its efficient and effective implementation. So, sir, like it's very obvious in most cases for an organization to have both blue collar and white collar employees. And since HR is closely related to looking after all the employees, how do you make sure that each employee, whether a blue collar or a white collar, stays motivated? Could you also please suggest some ways that a social enterprise should follow, while keeping in mind that in most of the cases the volunteers do not have a monetary incentive to work?
Sure, Anirudh. A mark of a great organization is really one, in my opinion, where everyone, right from the CXO level to the frontline worker who's really in contact with the customer or producing the product which that organization is selling, are all treated with respect and get their due credit where required. Essentially, all human beings are motivated, and in an organization setup as well, there are both intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors at play. Each employee comes in with his or her own levels of motivation, different factors
Certainly.
which are internal to to that individual. As far as HR department goes, or the HR function personnel go, it is their role to ensure that the extrinsic factors are in place. And like we discussed earlier, to enable employees obviously to perform at their peak levels and to come in every day with a fresh and a positive frame of mind, because
Definitely.
only that sustains a organization for long term. So HR leaders really need to start at the core, which is building the right culture in the organization. For this, they need to obviously partner with the founders, with the founding members, with the leadership team to design and define what that culture is going to be and how it needs to be propagated down the lines. It needs to expand to ensuring that every employee gets the right tools and training for him or her to be successful in the job. It means creating the right environment where there's collaboration and teamwork and positivity. It also means laying down a reward system which is just and fair, and there is no impartiality. A very critical component that companies need to ensure is part of the cultural ecosystem is integrity, which should be non-compromising across the board.
Definitely.
So if HR leaders do all of this, it pretty much helps ensuring that people across the ranks are motivated and work for the good of the organization. In the case of a social enterprise, there is a slight variation only at a very conceptual level, and that is that by design, the individuals that are there in that social enterprise have very high levels of intrinsic motivation. And for the
Exactly.
reason they have chosen a path which is typically more challenging but more fulfilling. It may not be as remunerative initially, but then there are other benefits at a psychological level, at a social level, which are difficult to measure. So in HR, in such a scenario where it is managing, let's say, a social enterprise, really needs to ensure that it supports these from the standpoint of helping strengthen the intrinsic value system and ensuring that they don't feel let down or that their trust does not get damaged in any way. Which means that HR needs to ensure that the core mission of the organization, whatever it is being adhered to. There is no unscrupulous activity happening. It is not just a social image, but a more concerted delivery, more careful execution that's happening on the ground, and serving the end purpose of it, which was created or established.
So, sir, like, just out of curiosity, like, in an organization, like, we have two mediums of communication, one formal and one informal. So, sir, how do you think can anyone strike a balance between a formal and the informal means of communication? Because, like, if we are too formal, I feel there would not be an open communication. Whereas if we are too informal, there might be some delays in the work that we do. So, could you please suggest some ways that a proper balance could be formed?
Sure. So, Andrew, the best way to bring in a balance as far as work practices go and bringing that right mix of formal interaction and informal interaction is to create systems and processes which help in this direction. And what are these systems and processes? Systems and processes in this context are really those reviews and discussions which enable business steps to move forward. So if there are defined reviews, defined discussions which happen at a periodic level, whether it's a weekly meeting or a monthly a review or a quarterly review, more commonly known as a QBR, it ensures that moment that review or that interaction happens in a structured, calendarized way, automatically there is a level of formality and a level of seriousness that gets attached to it. And the employees in the organization are, in a sense, not only compelled but encouraged to treat them in that manner and then adhere to it. Informal communication is also helpful. It also serves a very critical, part in any organization's growth journey.
Definitely.
Where that needs to be controlled is when it's loose gossip or unsavory information which is flowing around, and that, to my view, should be curtailed more by encouraging a transparent culture in the organization and being clear and open to all your colleagues.
Right. So I definitely agree that the formal means of communication is as important as the informal means of communication is. So, like, coming to the final question that I would like to ask is, what advice would you like to give to the audience? Or rather, if I could frame it in this way, what advice would you give to yourself back when you were about to begin your journey in the HR domain?
Oh, lovely question, Ruth. I think I would give myself a lot of advice. As an individual, obviously, I look back and I always think of those opportunities or instances where I feel I could have done much better, and just like anyone does. But if you were to ask me one specific advice which I would give myself, I think it would be to get some more cross-functional exposure early on in my career and not limit myself just to the HR function. In fact, my feedback or suggestion to students who are listening to the podcast would also be to evaluate this at the start of their career itself. I would recommend they read this very interesting book called Catalyst by Chandramouli Venkatesan. He's a renowned industry expert, and he very beautifully has laid down some practical steps which students or young executives can take at the start of their career itself to enable them to build a very long-term successful career. And I only wish it was printed during my college days. I would have picked it up then. But for those who are listening in, do read.
So that would definitely be very helpful for the audience. So now we've reached the end of this episode, and I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for being with us today and guiding us through one of the most important aspects of any business, any organization, human resource management.
Thank you so much, Anirudh. It was a pleasure being here, and I wish all the students of SRC and students across the country who are listening in to all the best for the journey ahead, and take care during these times.
Thanks a lot, sir. The pleasure was all ours. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Hope you liked today's episode. Thank you, and stay tuned for more informative bites on the aspects of entrepreneurship by Connecting Dreams Foundation SRCC chapter.